Can you believe I almost forgot to have my LaCroix over here so I could drink it periodically? That was silly of me, but I remembered. So I don't want to make this video, but I have to because we have all these dumbass libfems running around doing their thing. Libfems, hashtag libfems gonna libfem. So it's so upsetting to me that we now have to, we are at the point, truly, we are at the point where we have to explain to women what a woman is. Trannies, the whole trans cult is so abusive and so, like, heavy-handed that they have assumed dominion over the entire feminist movement in the United States. And I mean, there's more to come, honestly, because that capitalist bullshit's gonna spread. It is spreading like wildfire. So, you know, it used to be pretty obvious that men and women were, in fact, two different things. But now people are confused because of miseducation and people, abusing women into saying that trans women are women. I went to another goddamn training. I'm gonna quit my job. I hate it so much because these trainings are just sucking my soul right out of my body. And I was so worried, honestly, I was so worried that Titwan's issue was gonna come up from the instructor like it did last time. And it was gonna be just insufferable and, wrong, because transgenderism is wrong, okay? It's bad and it's regressive and it's entirely based on sexism. Luckily, it didn't really come up that much. The instructor mentioned it a few times. However, he seemed very aware of the fact that, women as a sex class of people, children, are not treated properly. And he mentioned that multiple times. He said women are treated blah, 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 blah. He didn't say, he actually did sometimes say people who identify as women. That shit is outrageous. Women have been erased. We're like an afterthought because men are fucking ruining everything. But so what I thought was interesting was some people brought up transgenders, and both of those people were women. The instructor didn't really specifically bring up transgenderism, but he did, like, kind of mention it in an offhanded way a few times. And the fact that these women brought it up really, really got to me. They were the only ones who brought it up. No one else in the class brought it, and there were like 30 people there, maybe more, maybe 40. No one else in the class brought up transgender. And the thing about transgender is that transgenders are not women's experiences. Women have their own unique experiences that they can't even bring up because they're too busy bringing up transgenders. Luckily, I got to talk to one of the gals who brought up transgenderism. This is Cran Raspberry, I will add. I got to talk to her when we were doing some activity. And she was from this really, really small town, because there were different towns. Oregon's a really rural state, just in general, I will add. but she was from this really small town, and she was like, well, she was just telling me this long story, and she was like, well, blah, 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 I don't even know if someone identifies as female. And I was like, honey, you can't identify as female. I cannot identify as anything other than white because I am white, and if I did so, that would be wrong. So therefore, it is also wrong for a man to identify as a woman. She was kind of like, oh yeah, but then carried on with her story. I hope I got to her. I really do. I hope that I got to her, and I know I say this all the time, but I guess maybe I could talk more about it, and that's that I used to be a lib fem. Okay, I did. I used to be all up in trans rights and all of that bullshit. Okay, I used to be all up in it. I used to be calling people transphobes and that dumb, dumb, dumb. What did I call it? Trannies, trans lingo, that newspeak shit that they're talking. Yeah, I used to know all those words and be privy to them, and I used to have Tumblr, frankly. That's what it was, is that I was on Tumblr. Wasting my goddamn time. But, okay. So, here's something I noticed with Titwans was that friend I had, that I mentioned in my Peak Trans video, she was an out lesbian, before she became trans. What happened was she switched schools and she went to this more alternative school where there were more alternative people. And by the end of the year, there were some trans kids there. By the end of the year, she was trans. And then I noticed that same exact thing happening with her friend from college. Like, her friend from college was just an out lesbian. And then they both went to this hyper liberal university. You know, this girl met my former friend. They became friends. Then this girl became trans. This is like it's a social phenomenon. Okay. It's not a, I don't know what the words I'm trying to say are, but it's not a real thing. Like, being trans isn't a real thing. One thing that really gets to me about transgender is, like, you have to be 100% reliant upon the pharmaceutical industry for your entire life, for the entire time you're transitioning or on hormones. You're going to be on hormones for your whole life. If you're trans, your whole life, you're on hormones that whole time. And, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of people who, you know, need to have access to anything at the pharmacy, you know, diabetics. I'm sure they would love to not go to the pharmacy and get the insulin they need, the needles they need. I'm sure they would just, I know there are, like, programs and stuff, they just send them to you, but, like, I'm sure they would just love to, you know, maybe eliminate their illness. I feel like that would be really great, but, like, trender, for some of them, I think a lot of them would, but, like, trenders, like, are choosing a life, a ball and chain connected to the pharmaceutical industry. And I feel like that's connected to capitalism, because people now, like, this is also why all the goddamn fucking fandoms are just out of control, is people are identifying with other people by the things that they buy, by the fandoms they ascribe to, right? So that's kind of happening. Like, transgenderism is a fandom. It's a fandom to sexist rhetoric and sexist ideas and all of that useless horseshit that we should be doing away with, but we are only making stronger by being pro-trans. That's messed up. That is really, really messed up. And oh my gosh, I didn't see that reflection. Hold on. Excuse me, Planty. It's a rainbow. But you know, this shit is just dumb and needs to stop. And I was watching a video of fucking, God, it just breaks my heart every time I see anything about him. Jennings. A few moments ago, I was watching a video about him, and it's just so sad to me because he's probably gonna kill himself, honestly, once he gets a little bit older and realizes that he can't have sex because I don't even want to talk about this. I feel it's wrong to talk about, you know, some random child's genitals. Like, that's just really odd to me. And people, you know, by being pro-trans are doing that. Terry and I were downtown the other day and just in public, and a TIFF, trans-identified female, who could not have been older than 16. Was just like walking around with her friends, and I could tell she had been on testosterone because of her goddamn testosteroned up voice. And I was like, that's so sad. I feel like I was gonna say something else. Maybe this is all you get. Oh, I guess I can talk more about Jazz Jennings. So Jazz Jennings, you know, my theory about him is that I don't know that his parents had a daughter. I think they only had sons. I think what happened was his parents, his mother, gave him more attention for picking the girly toys, right? So he latched onto that at a very early age. He says he was 2. He's like, I can remember when I was 2, I had this dream that my penis was turning to a vagina. But I really think that, you know, that was his mother, you know, giving him more attention for picking the girly toys, and then he purposely did that because he wanted more attention for it. He wanted more attention, period. You know, I noticed that this is a real issue with twins, is like, they all have really serious, like, mommy issues and daddy issues and just relationship issues, period. Like, they're all like, I don't know. I feel like growing up in a conservative household, this one gal I knew who went by Z, she grew up in a very, very restrictive household with hyper conservative pro-liar parents. And that's really damaging over time, you know, when you're getting these messages constantly, that these backhanded message constantly that women are less, women are less, women are less, you're going to internalize that and believe it. So it's also, I feel like it's also like, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Munchausen syndrome by proxy, is that these parents are like, oh, my kid is transgender, my kid is transgender, by the way, my kid is transgender, you know, they want to, like, get all this attention for having a transgender kid, when that's not, you know, this attention is not love, this attention is not productive, this attention is just attention. God, I was gonna say something else. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm tired, so I'm just not on the top of my game. But you know, trans rhetoric is very sexist. Like, if I am a woman, obviously, but if I chop wood and have an engineering degree and Don't wear dresses. I'm wearing a dress today, but you can't see it. By the way, more men, at least in the United States, I don't know about other countries, get engineering degrees than women. That's why I say that. Does that make me less of a woman? Do those manly attributes make me less of a woman? No. No, they most certainly don't. I'm still 100% a woman if I do those manly things. You know, and, you know, trender rhetoric says, well, you have to change your sex, so that must mean that you're trans. Shut the fuck up. No. No. It does not fucking mean that. That is absolute goddamn nonsense. That's like saying if you like one biblical quote, then you must be a Christian. No, that is equally ridiculous. People are also doing this because it's trendy. This is a fad. You know, this is like a fucking like, this is like Furbies. This is like Beanie Babies. This is like, I don't fucking know. What are other goddamn fads, you guys? I don't know this shit anymore. But this is like a capitalist fucking fad, okay? But, I was going back to what I was saying earlier, is like, people identify with their fandoms, they identify with things that they buy. That is some fucking, Marx right there. If I can remember the quote correctly, I had it and I may have forgotten. People recognize themselves in their commodities. So if people recognize themselves in their commodities, then people recognize themselves in the surgeries that they've purchased for themselves and the hormones that they've purchased for themselves. Maybe they haven't, you know, people don't even buy that, okay? It is a commodity, but people are often provided that for free. That, you know, the state just passes that shit out like candy. And I know of a woman who was from a very, 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 very abusive household. She broke free when she was 18. She got on the trans train, you know, suddenly wanted to become a man and had to take this test. She doesn't remember a lot of it. She has, you know, spotty memory for this whole ordeal. But she was saying that she remembers someone telling her the answers to this test she had to take in order to get some surgery done or something. And she's had both of her breasts removed. She's like 24. Okay. That's super young. She's had both of her breasts removed and she regrets her transition. She was on testosterone for a while there. But now she's back to being a woman because that's all you ever are. You can never change your sex. That's impossible. That is just not possible. You can't do that. And I've said in my other videos, and I just say this in general, is that people are incredibly out of touch with reality. It's like people don't you know, want to come to terms with reality. The reality of transgenderism is that it's wrong. The reality of it is that it harms people. The reality of it is that it does not help people. The reality of it is that it's sexist. The reality of it is that it promotes women erasure. The reality of it is that it creates a lot of fucking goddamn disgusting waste that never, ever, ever, ever needed to be created in the first place. The reality, I could go on and on. I could go all fucking night with that shit, okay? But those realities are enough to make it stop and enough for people to stop believing in it and stop backing it up and for women to fucking start standing up for themselves. So it's time that we do that.